Good. I think we finally made it. The last presentation. I thought it was Lewis Hamilton coming. Someone told me he's around.
He is downstairs.
Yeah.
Well, he has been downstairs earlier. Mercedes have been running on track. I don't know if you guys have seen the trucks and things when you came in. So George Russell, Mick Schumacher and Lewis have all been here. I think George is still downstairs at the moment. But they're running, it's part of what they do for corporate events and various things, and they run the cars at different points. They have limited mileage they can do, and they've been doing that on tracks. That's why the Mercedes are down here. The F1 teams do this every so often. Red Bull, Mercedes, we get virtually all of them here. Normally beginning of the year before the season kicks off. Anyway,
okay.
Kind of ruining what I was going to say.
I'll leave you to it anyway. You have it already, so continue.
Can you all hear okay? So I've just taken one mic off. So my name's Rob Janer. I'm here from the museum at Silverstone. If you can flick on to my next slide. So can I do it from the computer here? So just tell you a little bit about why I'm here. I'm not going to be focusing on anything you're doing in terms of your work, really. It's all just going to be a kind of case of telling you a little bit about Silverstone, a little about what we do at the museum, and also kind of I'll have a Q&A, because I've been involved in the sport for a long, long time. My first visit here was 1987 as a very small child. I know I don't look old enough, do I? Thank you, everyone. First visit here, International Trophy. And if I look back at the names on the programme of that, we've got people like Johnny Herbert racing the Formula. He won the Formula 3 race that day. Damon Hill on the bill and others, those sort of drivers. And actually, when I started at the museum, it wasn't long in, I managed to get one of the cars, Johnny Herbert's car that won that first race in the museum. It's still there now. I've been involved in the sport for a long time, karting, done various bits of driving, did rally driving at uni out in Wales and various other bits. I did my work experience at McLaren. Formula One team, that was literally a case of writing off to people, and they were, when I was 15, 16, did that, and I think I may have some photos of that here, because I got to do some phenomenal things on that session. In fact, I'll come back to those in a minute. If we can just go back to the other slide for a second and just cover everything. And then I've done various bits of safety work for years, 24 years worth of safety work, around in every circuit in the UK and also in the UAE, US, Canada, various other places. And so been around motorsport my entire existence. And then just recently, I've started doing a lot more media hosting, a lot of TV work and that kind of thing, which I'll come on to in a moment. In fact, I was nearly late. Do any of you know the Car SOS TV show? Yeah, we've just been presenting. I've been doing an edit of that this morning, and we've just when you watch it in Easter when it comes out, Citroen SM when we did the whole reveal of a car today with the host Tim and Fuzz and that. So that's been really cool. That's why I was nearly a bit late here. I do apologise. Had to sprint from the museum for that. And I look after our learning and engagement side of things at the museum. So if any of you are interested, happy to talk about it later. We do lots and lots, and I know. Some of you guys will be involved in it from a STEM education point of view. We do lots and lots of work with young children. This year, we will have 13,000 young children that come to youngsters, and that's from 5 years old up to university undergraduates, and that will come to the museum and they'll take part in different activities. And we do lots of things using real F1 technology and real MotoGP technology, and the kids can handle things like bits of Lewis Hamilton's car and Max Verstappen's car. Please no booing at that point. We get lots of those sort of bits out, and it's the idea is we do sessions they couldn't ever do in school. So it's really quite a privilege to do that kind of thing. Can you flick on to the next one? I don't know if I can. So yeah, just wanted to show a couple of these kind of things that I've been involved in. I always I'm not showing off here. It's just a little bit of why I'm here talking. So the top photos were when I did my work experience. You've got Ayrton Senna at the top there. Those of you may know him. Nicky Lauda, who I had the privilege of working with a few times actually before he passed. There's a photo of me at the Grand Prix. I have the privilege here at Silverstone every year of running the pit lane from a marshalling point of view. I've done that from a safety side for a long time. And since 2003, I've had the privilege of looking after the start line as the piece of track. So I look after the pit lane and the start line and all the team of marshals that are there. So it means I have to be on the grid every year at the Grand Prix, and lots of other bits like that. And it's an absolute privilege. And just more recently, we do lots more media stuff, do lots of on-stage work at the Classic and things. I don't know how many of you follow Autosport's website. They had a big thing about Lego and Technic Lego. It's still on there. And Bernie Collins, I don't know if you know her from the Aston Martin. She was Aston Martin strategist, now Sky TV presenter. Her and I presented a thing with a group of children about Technic Lego and making Lego. It's a 12-minute piece of film took us 5.5 hours. And most of it, at one point Bernie said to me, it's just her and I sitting on a floor playing with Lego because the kids had lost interest long ago. But they edited it really well. And that's going to be out in every single Lego store as well. And it's all about how Technic Lego is actually like the real thing. So we're building like diffs and things like that, just like a Formula One car would have, so the youngsters could really understand the tech and things. So I'm very, very lucky. I have a really cool job, and I just get to really play with race cars and do this kind of stuff all the time. Thank you. Just nip on to the next one. So Silverstone as a venue, just thought I'd give a bit of a brief history. I'm sure some of you probably know this, but there's been a population around here for about 1,000 years. Silverstone Village was known as a woodyard place. So there used to be lots of woods here. They used to do lots of wooded work. It became famous in the 1940s for its airbase, and it was a Wellington bomber training base here at Silverstone. And the track there that got the old photo of there, when the Air Force disappeared at the end of the Second World War, it was used for racing, and the first race held here was a Grand Prix meeting. It wasn't World Championship then, but it was a Grand Prix meeting on the 2nd of October 1948. So Silverstone turned 75 last Monday. We did little cakes at the museum. Sorry, I didn't bring any along today. We did little cakes for everybody at the museum. So, we turned 75, and we've had car and bike racing at a top level ever since. And we are now known as a world-class sporting venue. And we attract groups in who study sporting things. So I do work with a university, a couple of universities in the US, but one in Carolina who do a management sports studies course about different venues and different marketing and media and how that works in the sport. And we do lots of these kind of things because we are a world-class sporting venue. Across the Grand Prix weekend, we have an estimated 450,000 people on site. So if you moan about the traffic when you get out tonight, forget it. And back when in 1950, we held the first ever Formula One Grand Prix here. There was one single track road that came in and out, and we had 100,000 spectators. But also they stopped all the traffic because it was the only time a monarch had been. So the king came to that race, and of course they stopped all the traffic to allow him to come in and out with his cavalcade. So if you'd come here then, it would have been really difficult getting in and out. But now the A43 is much better, and we get everyone in and out. You flick on to the next one for us. So our museum, I know we're not in the museum now, but just tell you a little bit about it. I don't know if any of you have been, but it's over by the main entrance. You can't miss it. It's a real hangar. It's the only hangar that's left on site. We were given the space by the British Racing Drivers Club, and it had undergone a full lottery. The lottery gave us about £8 million, undergone a full restoration. The reason was, and the kids love this story, when we first moved into the hangar in 2016, and bearing in mind it had been used for loads of things for years beforehand, indoor go-karting, storage of racing cars, all these things. When the Air Force were in there, and it was gentlemen that were the air crew there were no toilets in the hangar. And what the guys used to do is used to go in the corners of the building. Now, this is a metal structure. So over 70 years of damp, dark rain and horribleness and wind, the building had actually rotted away completely in 3 of the 4 corners. And the first thing they said is, we've got to knock it down. And of course, the lottery had said, no, we can't do so. Big civil engineering work to restore the building because it was going to come down. We opened it in October 2019, and we had our official opening with Prince Harry and Lewis Hamilton on the 6th of March 2020. The entire world closed down 13 days later. So all that good publicity we'd got from having Lewis and Prince Harry, it was Prince Harry's last royal engagement he did with us at the museum, sort of public one anyway. And it was a really big deal for us. We've still got some photos up and things like that from the day, but unfortunately it's there. But if any of you get the chance, it's over by the main gate at Silverstone. If any of you are here, we have an amazing collection. I'm going to go into a little bit of detail, some of the hidden gems in a minute. You're right to knock on to the next one. So our museum, a couple of the things we do education, as I've said. We look after Silverstone's history. We have professional archive for the British Racing Drivers Club, so we keep the archive, and I'm going to go into some of the elements we've got of it in a minute. We do lots and lots of TV and media work. Again, I'll touch on that in a minute. Anyone know BRM, Graham Hill's Formula One team? So we do a lot of work with BRM. We look after their archive. That's a BRM, Britain's first Formula One car proper official Formula One car that was ever built is that one there. 16-cylinder, 1.5-litre engine. I don't know how many of you know about engines, but each piston's about that big, tiny little thing. It's an amazing car. Never works, but it's amazing. And when it does, it sounds brilliant, but it doesn't work that often. And then we do lots of shows, events. We're actually on, you may have seen there's a MIA, Motorsport Industry Association show downstairs. We're down there at that. We do the Autosport show. We do go out and do lots of events. And it's all about trying to kind of raise awareness of the STEM and the science and the history of the sport through everything we do. And we're kind of becoming and have become very much Silverstone's kind of shop window, if you like. So we're there for people to come and understand a bit about the history of the circuit, but also more about the modern side of racing as well. So we have a collection of cars and bikes that are all the genuine article, and we go right the way back from, we've got 2 vehicles that were in the first ever race at Silverstone here, right the way up to modern day Formula One cars. And next week I've got an Alpine 2022 Alpine coming in. So we go right the way from the early days of Silverstone right the way up to modern days of racing as well. Okay. Anyone seen this TV show? Yeah? Some nodding. Awful, isn't it? Yeah? But it has done wonders for us here at Silverstone. And Netflix is a huge, huge programme. A huge, huge thing. Over 1 billion people, according to Netflix, have watched this show. And it's done wonders for us here at Silverstone. So since 2016, when it came out, it's brought a whole new audience. If you haven't seen it, it's kind of a reality TV show for Formula One. It's all about the personalities in the sport, the drivers and the team managers and various other things. And it's brought in the Netflix side of it, the MotoGP one, not quite so much, but the Drive to Survive has brought so many new people to Formula One. And it's had a big impact on Silverstone, but also Formula One as a whole. I don't know how many of you have been to the British Grand Prix before? Yeah, a few of you. Anyone tried to buy tickets recently for a Grand Prix? Yeah, a few of you nodding. It's difficult, isn't it? And it's very, very expensive. And a lot of it's down to this Drive to Survive show. It's brought loads and loads of new people to the sport, new viewers. And what's great is it's enabled us as a museum and some of the work I do to engage young people with the idea of STEM, engineering, science is actually something quite cool to be involved in. We're able to use the vehicle of motorsport, using the personalities from these TV shows, to actually kind of say, yeah, it's something you could be involved in. Does anyone have any idea how many people, so you have 20 cars on a Formula One grid, how many people are involved in making a Formula One event happen? Any guesses? I throw this question out when I do these education sessions. I throw this out normally to sort of secondary school age children. And we talk about the team and we say, well, one Formula One team has 1,000 people that work there. Then you have all the suppliers, people like yourselves probably, science and tech companies and all those suppliers. And every Formula One team has about 3,000 of those. Then you have the engine manufacturer. Then you have all the media side and all the corporate stuff and all those media things that go on and all the content that he's making. The answer is 1.9 million. Are involved in making a Formula One event happen. And it's huge, and that also includes on-site on an event as well as all the other things. But the opportunities there are massive, and that's what we spend a lot of time talking to young people about, and certainly my team do a lot of that pushing and trying to get some of the good information out there to people. You're right to knock on to the next one, thank you. The media side of it is really important to us. I'm just going to gloss over a couple of things we do here. The top photo at the top corner. When COVID happened, and I'm sure you all remember that, Channel 4, if any of you watched Channel 4 coverage of Formula One, you may remember this. They couldn't go to the Grand Prix. We couldn't have any guests in the exhibition, so we turned our whole exhibition into a TV studio for them. And for 5 weeks, we did the first 3 Grand Prix of the year from our studio, got to know the guys really well. And actually, it was really good for us. It got us a lot of awareness because we were very young as an organisation. Anyone watch The Apprentice? TV show? Terrible, isn't it? But the photo here, at the time, I had to take a photo of the candidates with the back because we filmed this last year. The striped jumper is Karen Brady. If any of you have seen the show will know she's on it. We couldn't show the front of the candidates because we were episode 8. And of course, we knew who'd been kicked out because by the time they got to us, there was very few of them left. Amazing TV show to be involved with. 180 hours we shot for a 24-minute segment. across 3 days. It was one of the most tiring things ever. I was gutted. I did a whole piece about a tour and everything. The whole lot got cut. I was gutted. Anyway, but it was really good for us to be involved in that kind of thing. And actually for us, when we talk to young people about things, it's something that's tangible. They get to understand it. And also we do our education sessions where if any of you saw the episode, they had a lunch where they threw the food all over the floor. Well, that's where we do all our education sessions, where they did in that room. And it's very, very obvious. So it's quite a cool thing to do. We do lots of high-end charity work. Are you aware of the Race Against Dementia charity that's Sir Jackie Stewart's? It's very, very popular. It's Formula One's kind of accredited charity for the next couple of seasons. And we do a lot of work with these high-end charity groups where Sir Jackie and others will come in, and we do a big science thing with the neuroscientists who are working on the Alzheimer's and the dementia medicine. So they're all clinicians. And we host the conference for them every year, and he comes along, and it's really good for us to kind of look at the science and tech things and push things out. And then the one down here is really cool, although I've got an update for this now. We do various kind of Hollywood megastar bits. Now, you can't really tell from that photo, but this chap here is Tom Cruise. When Channel 4, you may have seen it at the Grand Prix last year, did an on-track piece with him. We held all the interviews in the museum, we do that. Are you all aware about the film that's going on at the moment with Brad Pitt? Have you all seen it? Well, normally the circuit's been quiet as anything for the last couple of months because they've hired the circuit for the filming. And at the Grand Prix, they had all the things there. Brad Pitt's been here quite a bit. Gets some people very excited that he's here quite a bit. But of course, they've hired the circuit at a huge astronomical rate. But the last month and a half, they've not been able to use it at all because the writers and actors strike has hit, and so the circuit's empty, and they can't run it because it could be a last-minute thing of, oh, we can use them. They've been able to do a little bit of the running with the cars because the drivers are not classed as stunt men or women. They are drivers or performance drivers, so they're able to do a little bit of the working. But it's a huge entity. If any of you have seen the footage of what's gone on, they filmed a piece on the grid here at Silverstone. They literally have set up an entire Formula One team. They've even gone to the level of having all the clothing made by one of the manufacturers that does all the clothing for the team. The guys they're using in the garages are all ex-F1 mechanics. Even the safety marshals involved are people that have done the job for a long time. The authenticity for the film should hopefully be good. I'm sure the storyline will be terrible, but the authenticity in the film should be really good. And Carlin are running it, Formula 2 team. So it should be a really good movie when that comes out. You're right, to knock on to the next one. So we have some very, very special exhibits in the museum. And I have to touch on these two cars in particular. You'll all have probably heard of Ayrton Senna and Alain Prost. I was really lucky to be able to get these two cars from Switzerland. And these are the kind of things that we have in the museum that are getting people up close to cars. These had never been seen in the UK since they raced here. The Ferrari is the one that won the British Grand Prix in 1990. I remember being here as a small child and being amazed because anything Ferrari is amazing. The car is absolutely pristine. The next one is, have you seen the photo of Nigel Mansell when he won the Grand Prix and he's towed Ayrton Senna back on the back of the car? Yeah? So that is that car that McLaren said broke down in that race. It ran out of fuel. But that's the car. And the same owner has both these cars, and they're absolutely pristine. They're lovely. We had them over. It made our insurance company go a little bit crazy. The McLaren on its own was valued at $17.5 million. It's not the most expensive car we've had. We had a Ferrari for a very, very short, literally a couple of days. But we had them for 6 months. And the owner still uses them. He races them. He's taken them both around Monaco at the historic. And if any of you have been to Monaco, you literally have to breathe into certain corners. Very brave to be thrashing these around. And it's a real privilege to play with these things. So if you ever get up to the museum, we have the collection of cars and bikes are absolutely phenomenal. Yeah. I have to talk about a couple of hidden gems that we get. So these are kind of things that we'll always have at the museum, always there. The first one is an absolutely stunning trophy. Mike Hawthorne was Britain's first world champion. I don't know how many of you know back in the 1950s. Very, very sad story to that championship. Ferrari had 4 drivers that year, and by the end of that year, they'd all unfortunately passed away for different reasons. But that small trophy actually sits no higher than that laptop. It's about that big. And it's tiny, but it's actually missed by most people. But it is the actual Formula One Drivers' Championship trophy. And Mike Hawthorne never got presented with it. It got given to his widow. She wasn't sure what to do with it. She gave it to the British Racing Drivers Club. They kind of had a clubhouse then. It then got put into the archive, and so we have it on display now. Very simple in its design, but a really, really significant artefact. We don't take it out, but we do have it on display permanently for people to look at. The next one along is a car. I don't know how many of you know the car, but it's a Brabham BT20. The only car where a driver has won the World Championship as a constructor and a driver, Sir Jack Brabham. And he built that car and raced it and won the championship in 1966. It's an absolutely stunningly beautiful car. It's in the kind of classic cigar shape. A lot of people think it's a Lotus because it's in that dark green and gold colour, but it looks absolutely lovely. But the really terrifying bit, and the reason I include the photo inside the car, this car would have done 165, 170 miles an hour at circuits like the Nürburgring, Spa, Silverstone and others. And places like Spa and the Nürburgring, I don't know if any of you have ever been, but they used to be just tree-lined around the outside with big jumps and various other bits in them. They were proper dangerous circuits. And you sit in this car, you've done 165, 170 mile an hour maybe in it. Inside the car, you'd have just had the lap belt. So this is a photo of inside the car. You'd have just had one belt around you. That's not the scary bit. Can you see the metal around the outside? Yeah, with the little sticker on the side. So if I'm sitting in that car, that metal is going round me, and then there's another bit that sits above my thighs, just here. And that is the fuel tank. And it is just a pot-riveted aluminium metal box that the drivers were sitting in. And you had to be proper brave, 160 mile an hour plus in something like that. And it's absolutely true what Sir Jackie says, Sir Jackie Stewart's famous line, that the life expectancy of a Formula One driver in the 60s and 70s was actually lower than a pilot in the Battle of Britain. And it's absolutely true. And when you look at the kind of designs of the car, and everything was about weight reduction. So it was very thin metal in there. Lotus were going a stage further with the chassis rails at the top. You can't quite see in the photo. That's where the kind of cable tie at the top there. They were drilling holes at points along the metal to make it lighter. Yes, of course, it made the car bend and break, and there was some awful consequences to it. But these are in the days pre-safety. You know, helmets were open face, gloves weren't compulsory. Most of the drivers wore a shirt and tie underneath a set of overalls and that kind of thing. It was a different thing. But yeah, these things are beautifully dangerous, but they are stunning, and they're actually a really important story to tell in terms of things like the safety of the sport and how we move on. You know, go on to the next one. Thank you. Next couple of things. The reason I've got a piece of paper with some autographs on, you may be aware, back in kind of up until 1995, the format for a Grand Prix was you had on a Sunday, you had a morning warm-up and then you had a race in the afternoon. Well, back then, the drivers, nowadays it's all done electronically, the cameras everywhere and all that sort of stuff. Drivers used to have to hand sign on. And we've got all of the sheets from every British Grand Prix, even the ones that weren't held at Silverstone. We've got all of them. And this piece of paper is one of my favourite because 1992, and you look, I don't know how clearly you can see the names from where you're sitting, but you've got from 1992, Ayrton Senna, Nigel Mansell, Mika Häkkinen, Michael Schumacher, Damon Hill. All of those world champions are on that list, along with other names, so people like Andrea de Cesaris, John Alesi, if you're a historian of the sport, you know. There's some amazing names there, and these things are real, they're iconic, and we've got them all out for people to see, and we let people handle them and look at them. The really interesting one on this, and the reason I show this one, is I was very lucky to have a chat with a gentleman there called Johnny Herbert. You all heard of Johnny Herbert before, in the middle there? Well, I was walking around with him looking at this, and he said, "That's not my signature." I was like, okay, and I've met Johnny a few times. I don't know if any of you have seen him, heard him speak. He's quite entertaining. And what do you mean that's not your signature? He said, "What year was it?" I said, 92. He said, "Oh, yeah." So his then teammate at Lotus was a guy called Mika Häkkinen, went on to be quite successful. But Mika, on the way to the Grand Prix that year, got arrested for speeding coming up to the village. And what happened was they carted him off, apparently, to a police station somewhere, like Toaster, Northampton, God knows. And and Lotus were a bit panicked. So what Johnny had to do, and bearing in mind this is pre-cameras everywhere days, Johnny did 3 laps in the morning warm-up, had to jump out of his car, put Mika's helmet on, get in Mika's car and do 3 laps of that, which really hacked him off because apparently Mika's was nearly a second a lap quicker than his was. And if you look at the time sheets, Mika Hakkinen in that morning warm-up was a lot quicker than Johnny Herbert. But Lotus had to send representatives, so neither of those 2 signatures are real. And it's only when you start to talk to people and you get some of those lovely little stories out of things. The other one, have you heard of Barry Sheen before? Yeah, and I can see people smirking and laughing as soon as I mention Barry Sheen. He was a very 1970s character, shall we say. He got away with a lot of things that wouldn't necessarily been gotten away with nowadays. He was a real character. And we've got quite a collection of his things because his son's been to visit. Barry passed away a number of years ago, unfortunately, but his son's been to visit, and we've got a couple of his World Championship bikes. We've got his 79 bike, which is the one he stuck the fingers up at Kenny Roberts as they went past. I don't know if you've ever seen that. We've got all those bits, but my favourite bit are his leathers and helmets that we've got. Now, you know, Barry used to like a smoke, a drink, and like to meet lots of girls. That's what he was quite famous for. But he used to get a little bit nervous before the Grand Prix, and so he liked to have a smoke. So what he used to do with the helmets, and he didn't have many helmets, he only had 1 or 2 really over a kind of course of a career, he cut a hole in the front. Can you see it there? Right, and that's seriously, he used to drill a hole in the front of the helmet so he could put a cigarette through, so he could literally have a smoke while he's on the bike before the Grand Prix used to start. Now, you'd never get away with it now. I believe Kimi Räikkönen might have tried it, but you'd never get away with that kind of thing these days. So it's real history and it's there. And again, all of these things are there to have a look at. I'm not here to plug the museum. It's more to give you a kind of a bit of an overview of some interesting things that happen in the sport and a little bit behind the scenes. But yeah, it's there for you to see if you ever want to go and have a look. Yeah, normally I would, for some of these things, bring some bits along, but unfortunately it's not quite possible here. But yeah, that's there. Do you want to drop on to the next one? Because I think this is the chance for saying, because I know we've run over a little bit today and that. I'm happy to take any questions. So I've been involved in the sport for a very long time. I'll be careful with what I say for certain things. But if any of you have any questions, I know you've got another Q&A to go on to in a second, but do any of you have any questions that you might like to ask at all? And don't feel that you have to at all. Super. Okay, yes?
On the Netflix,
Yeah.
To Survive, my favourite character was Gunther.
Yes.
How what was he like really? Because he comes across really well.
Gunther is a lovely, lovely, lovely chap.
Yeah.
They have a running joke in Haas. I know the comms director at Haas very well. And they have a running joke with Haas because everybody that Gunther's filmed with as the first scene gets sacked. So last season was Mattia Binotto. They were driving on Fiat 500, weren't they? Yeah, 2 weeks later he was sacked, wasn't he? So there's a running joke with Haas. Same with Roman Grosjean, wasn't it? He got sacked and others. So there's a running joke. But he is, I've only met him very briefly, but I did a piece of work for Haas. They gave us some race suits and I did some filming. Do you remember the Imola Grand Prix got cancelled this year? So I did some filming for them about their race suits and putting them on a mannequin for the museum. Just as a kind of, they needed some content, something a little bit different. They gave me some suits, we put them on display. Didn't think much of it. It was a 10-minute piece of camera I did. It was relatively... anyway, Grand Prix, British Grand Prix this year. I came down on the Thursday afternoon. We were doing our things just out the front. It's very weird being in this room, by the way. I'll tell you about that in a second. But down the front. Anyway, Stewie just called me over and said, I've just got a gift for you. And Gunther had given me his new book, and he'd hand-signed it. Rob, thank you for everything you've done. Thank you for all you continue to do for us and the team and for marshalling. And it was that he had no need to do that. I didn't ask for it or anything. And to have that is like, and it's a measure of the person. And he is, from what I've gathered, a really, really nice chap. Yeah, genuine. Yeah. Okay. The reason I say this room's weird, by the way, are you aware what this room is? So this is the driver's briefing room, essentially. So this room, just if you go out that door there, you go out the back, the podium is just there. And then this is where we have all the briefings. So we do our safety briefings in here. So us as senior officials come in here, the team managers come in here, and then the driver's briefing things happen in here, and then any other things over an F1 weekend, it all happens. So you are literally could be sitting where Lewis, I don't know where he sits. I've not been in here when he's in here, but you know, this is that room, by the way. So that's why I say it's a bit weird sitting in here. So yeah, it's you are in quite a cool room, really. Did anyone know that? No, okay, cool. Should have told you that at the beginning, shouldn't they, when they gave you the room? But yeah, it's quite cool. Yeah, so that side is literally all the operational side of motorsport happens at the weekend. So we've got race control just down the stairs there. The podium's just at the side. You know that little room where they go into where, you know, they have the drinks bottle and the thing and an argument normally, the three of them before they go on a podium. That room is literally just outside and round the corner, and the whole thing happens just out there. So yeah, it's quite a cool venue to be at. Cool. Any other questions? No pressure then, no. I know we've run over a little bit for your...
No. That was really good.
Sorry, it's a bit of a
really
whistle-stop tour of things. Yeah, it's been great seeing you all, and I know hopefully we can do this kind of thing and we can do some other bits in the future. But yeah, enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Cheers.